Okay, so there's three elements of business that businesses struggle with. The first one is, how do I grow? How do I fund my business through that growth phase? And the last one is, how do I get out? So there's growth issues, there's funding issues, and there's exit issues that have to be overcome to be successful in business. Now, if we look at the growth issues, a lot of businesses these days, they need to have a different infrastructure in place than what businesses traditionally have been. So the traditional business management systems, like you have budgets, you have organisational charts and job descriptions. They were born in the early 1900s and people are still using them today. So what we've done is we've created three distinct systems that are much more dynamic. They measure time, they measure money, and they measure capability. So they're the three things that they need to measure ongoing every day. So when businesses have that infrastructure in place, it gives the proper foundations for growth. Then they have to have the right revenue systems in place, which is a brand system, a product ecosystem, a channel and partnership system, and a sales system. So you've got infrastructure, then you've got revenue strategy, and then the last thing is you need a strategic view of the world around how you actually extend your assets. So how you productize your assets, how you look at your assets and start up different businesses. So then you build a business ecosystem, not just a product ecosystem. Now when you do that, what happens is you then get very clear around how you fund it, because funding is all about strategy. So strategy is all about knowing which priorities to put in place at which time, so that therefore anything that you've got that's funding, so any funding that you've got, you use it wisely and you use it in the right order. So therefore you don't have to use as much funding as what people think they need. And quite often they can just do it through debt or through cash flow. But if businesses in the technology phase and stuff like that, they need to get proper funding so that they can move quickly. What the investor's looking for is they're looking for a very clear plan for how that money is going to be used. Now, if you've got a very clear infrastructure system that you're going to be using, you've got a very clear revenue system that you're going to be doing, and you know exactly how you're going to extend your asset into markets or extend your assets into other product lines, then that gives the funding mechanism and the investor the confidence to give you the money that you need. And you don't have to give up as much equity because you've got the strategy and the roadmap already pre-planned. So that's the funding issue. And finally, the exit side of things. So the exit planning needs to start when you start the business, right? And then you work out, well, how am I going to build value that someone's going to want to buy? And so therefore you look at valuation principles. So valuation is very much valuation equals profit times a multiple. The multiple is the representation of the assets that you've created inside the business that can be leveraged. So there's assets like your culture, your talent, your capability is an asset. It's how the asset is how you attract staff and retain staff and get the biggest performance out of your staff is the asset. The second one is your systems innovation. That's an asset. So if you've got a systemized way that you innovate and you product innovate and you keep innovating, then you've got the next layer of asset. Right? Then you go up above that again, and because you've innovated, you'll come up with a whole lot of new products that you can put into the marketplace, which means you've got to go and get a whole lot of channels to actually get the product through. And then you've got a brand architecture that sits over the top of it, and then you can prove scalability. And when you can prove that you can take a business to scalability, it becomes a very valuable asset. Now, if you notice some of those words that I mentioned before around brand, product ecosystems, channel partnerships, they're all part of the same system. So when you've got the checklist and you know the system, you can then have a strategy that's designed, the management team has signed off on it, the funding people have signed off on it, and you've got a journey towards a destination that everyone's aligned to. And as a result of having everyone aligned to it, you're all focusing on how to do it, not what or why to do it. So it takes away all of the disagreements in the business, and it takes away all the frustration and all of the conflict when you have a very, very clear destination, a clear roadmap, and the right infrastructure to support the growth.